So today, let's talk about decision making, especially decision making in business. What do I as a data scientist see in decisions? How do we as data scientists bring something to decision making? I'll try to explain today. First, let me ask you a question. Why does Manchester City, arguably one of the most successful football clubs in the recent years, have employed data scientists? Why do they then have a manager? And why do they have scouts? So that leads me into one of the most important things that I think is the decision. Each decision has three key components in making it. And those are gut feeling, market research, and data analysis. I'll try to explain on each one of them. Gut feeling, right? Let's talk about business here. You have an e-commerce brand, you have an e-commerce product, you've started 5-6 years ago. Your whole business was at that time when you started out based on that gut feeling. You saw that gap in the market, you wanted to pursue it, or you were really passionate about that product selling, you're passionate about marketing, about building a business. It really comes from the inside. Entrepreneurship does really come from the inside. Every single decision that you made at that beginning was basically made on gut, right? Whatever you saw, whatever market opportunity you saw, you kind of went with it, right? So that's that gut feeling. In my opinion, it's crucial when you run a business, right? You can never underestimate that experience that you have with that business. Doesn't matter whether you're a founder, whether you're a manager, whether you're a head of, CEO, COO, whatever. You always need in a decision that thing that is gonna really make it your own, right? And that really comes from within, comes from experience, comes from the knowledge of certain industries, of certain businesses. So gut feeling is crucial in decision making, and definitely a big component of it. But is it the only one? I think what we find in the industries is when we work with multiple of them, sometimes people rely too much on gut feeling, which then leads to some bad decisions. So is gut feeling the only one? Well, in my opinion, definitely it is not. It is a crucial one, it is an important one. It is the one that allows us to put some emotion into all of it. But we need more objectivity. We need much more in making a decision than that gut feeling. Licking the finger, put it in the air and make a decision. That's just not the right way to do it. So if it's so important, why shouldn't we base everything on it? Well, there's this second area I want to talk about, market research. When you start your own business, when you're in a certain role and so on, what you really need to do is scout your competitors and see really what's out there. When you're launching a new service, for example, you need to see what is the competition like. Is it oversaturated, the market? Is it undersaturated? Is it really an opportunity out there that you can exploit, right? So this is what we all do. When we scroll on social media, when we look what other people are doing, trying to, I wouldn't say steal their ideas, but pick up something from them and apply into our business. That is what we do quite a lot. We constantly learn. And that's what I, as also a business owner, I'm always out there, right? I'm always talking to people, looking what they're doing, trying to see whether we can adapt that to our business. And I would definitely encourage people to do that, to go out there, to do the research, see what's good, what's right to them. I am also a big believer that every single business is unique in its way. So don't just copy what's out there in the market. Try to adapt it to yourself. Yes, sometimes it's going to be 99% copied, but that 1% is something that should be completely yours. Market research is a key thing. Let's look back at that example of Manchester City. They do have scouts. Those scouts are constantly looking for new players, new talent emerging from those young generations so they can use in their professional teams, right? The scouts have their gut feeling, their market research, which is brilliant. So we are talking about two components now in decision making. They are able to select a good player, right? Look at what Manchester City has achieved in the last couple of years. It all comes from good recruitment, good scouting process, and bringing in good players to what Manchester City is right now. So market research, crucial, absolutely crucial. Then again, I'll ask you a question. Is it the only one? If we base it on a market research, which is very uncertain sometimes, let's face it, when you look at other players in football, when you look at other competitors in your tech business, against your e-commerce brand, against your education space, whatever other industry we talk about here, we don't know a lot, right? We know everything that is at the front. What is really at the back, we sometimes have to assume and estimate what is happening behind doors of that business. We don't know whether they have a problem and they're just making it look better on the outside, it is really an uncertain piece of information. Gut feeling, back to that, the first component that we spoke about, also very uncertain, isn't it? I mean, we are saying something very subjective. Sometimes we get too passionate about the role that we are in, or sometimes too passionate about the business that we are on. So we are talking about two very uncertain, but yet important parts of the decision. So what is the third piece that makes it very, very, very objective? And that's data analysis. That's data science. Me as a data scientist, I constantly look at numbers. I constantly live in Excel spreadsheets, live in different various systems to try to capture what is that business intelligence. Each business, okay, let's not talk about startups. They don't have a lot of data. You just started out. Now you're on the brink of collecting all of that data. But let's talk about the business who is already operating for 3, 5, 10, 15, 50 years. They have a lot of data collected and they need to learn from it. It's a very objective point of view, right? We as data analysts come and analyze the data to try to provide the objectiveness, to hedge the risk of all the first two components in the decision making. And it is very, very important, the data. That's a gap in the industry. Not a lot of us want to use data. Why? Well, there is a lot of reasons out there. First one is data cleanliness. When you're at the beginning of running a business or opening a business or beginning of your role, you are not going to focus on data. And that's just the reality. You're going to focus on marketing, on getting those first sales in, on your product, on your service to develop it. And sometimes 5 years down the line, when you're ready to see and analyze the data for your decision making, you find yourself in a mess. But don't worry, that's absolutely normal. And now is the time for you to clean up that mess and try to make sense out of it. When that mess gets standardized, when the data comes into a clean, readable, usable format, then it's time to analyze and bring it into decision making. So data analysis is that key thing. Did you know that Manchester City has a whole data scientist team? Well, I'll just give you an example. If you watch Manchester City game, you will see Pep Guardiola right there. And then you will see some people with tablets coming and showing him certain numbers. Those are the data scientists. So what are they really showing them? I mean, those data scientists in football clubs, they analyze all sorts of data. They look at the player's performance. They try to hedge the injuries. So they can say to Pep, hey, take off this player. They might be prone to an injury and so on. Data science is such a crucial thing when it comes to decision making. You should never neglect it. So I spoke about all of these three things. But what are really here the examples? Let me show you. Have you watched that movie Moneyball? Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill? I mean, definitely watch it. I love that movie. And it's just a prime example of all the three components of a decision, right? So Brad Pitt, just to kind of summarize the movie, Brad Pitt finds himself in this new role as a kind of head of recruiter, head of that baseball team, and they are not doing very well, right? So they need to do something a little bit different to recruit those good players. In comes Jonah Hill, right? He represents a mathematician, a statistician, a business person who is analyzing all of that different statistics of players and really trying to pick a good team that goes well together. It's just a prime example of how Brad Pitt's kind of scouting and then gut feeling is coming into that decision, and then Jonah Hill as an actor representing his role comes in with that data. It's a prime example. I love that movie, and exactly what I'm talking about in this video is shown in the movie Moneyball. So now coming into all of this, they used all three components, didn't they? But it is never a third and a third and a third when you're making a decision. I'll just give you an example. Let's say you're launching a new product, you're launching a new service. In reality, you don't have a lot of data that you can model what is going to happen if you're launching something new. Yes, we as data scientists have some methods, the way we correlate products, we try to find some correlation, do some assumptions, so we still hedge that risk with a little bit of data. But the majority of it is going to be based on gut, right? How much inventory should I order for that product? How much people should I employ when I'm launching that new service altogether? Those are all the questions that are very much based on gut and a little bit of market research, don't get me wrong, right? You can see how your competitors, if they're selling that type of a product, how are they doing? How is it going? Is it gaining any traction on social media? Is it getting any traction in marketing? You can do some assumptions based on that. So in this case, gut feeling would be the majority. Market research would also be a large part of it. And data quite a small part of it. But as you're selling that product, as you're selling that service, data should take more and more percentage in any future decision making. If you have the data that is collected into your business, you can analyze it. you can forecast, you can learn from it, you can get that insights, live insights that is going to make you more reactive, more agile and adaptable to the market. So that's where kind of data takes over. Let's say we are ordering new inventory for a retailer, let's say a white t-shirt small. How do we really know how much inventory should we order for the next season or so for the next year? We as data scientists we crunch the numbers. We look at the history and we try to predict what the future is going to hold like. We wrap around marketing expenditure, marketing ventures, everything around that decision of what can happen with that inventory. And when you have so much data, learn from it. And then the data is going to tell you how much should that be for the next season. Same goes with services, same goes with product selling, any of them. Try to learn from your data. How do you really do it? Reports, dashboards, forecasting, trend analysis, and various others. But then also don't forget about your experience. We have never ever made a data analysis decision 100%. There is always that experience. From that experience, C-suite person in the business, from the experience of an advisor. You always present the data. What we are really big on and always try to talk with is us as data scientists. We empower the decision making. We don't make decisions instead of somebody. Neither should we. We always provide scenarios, we always provide those insights, but it's up to those people, to those business owners, to those people in decision-making positions to make that decision. It is very confusing, I know. 3 parts, what do you base it on? How much percentage should I say? Should you go with that and that? It's never black and white. It is very gray area. What I'm trying to communicate here is that if you want to be a data-driven business in this data-driven economy, you always need to take a look at all 3 components and then see what's the most logical, right? Data analysis models sometimes break. Market research breaks quite often because we don't know all of that information. Gut feeling, very subjective. Those are all the negatives. Let's talk about the positives. Gut, experience, market research, knowing opportunities out there, and also data, very, very objective view of the business. How do you make a decision in the end? Well, I can't tell you that, I'm afraid. I can't predict the future, but what I can definitely encourage you to take all 3 in effect when making a business decision. It is just going to be better. The risk is going to be hedged with data, research again, identifying opportunity, and gut is going to make you sleep at night. So data and decision making is very important. Market research and decision making, very important. Gut feeling and decision making, very, very important. Take a look at all 3, make a decision.